Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Silicon Zeros. Last episode, I think all we managed to get through was basic CPU. That was a tough one. Was there one of these earlier that I used one more module than I needed to or something? Yeah, 3s. Well, that's life. Not a big deal. So again, I think multiply is still a little bit out of our grasp, although in basic CPU, we did sort of figure out how to do stuff that takes multiple multiple ticks. I'm interested though in how much time do we get for a multiply, right? 38 ticks to multiply 4 numbers? Okay, it's probably doable, I don't know. I only see one test, because we... I don't know. Anyway, I still don't want to do that, but okay, op select. Problem. Apparently a real CPU needs to be able to do work on values from memory, not just shove predetermined stuff in. This means we'll need more types of instructions, which means you'll want this, an op selector. It's like an input selector, but it takes instruction opcodes instead of indexes? I'm not sure I quite understand what they're talking about here. Try it out by decoding and executing the instructions in each slot and see. Okay, so memory has some instructions. Fine. And we have a new thing called an op selector on R. So what does it do? It takes 2 inputs? What? I don't get this at all. It takes opcodes instead of inputs. But doesn't the input selector already do that? Because we were using that for the basic CPU thing. We tried using... We found out that you can convert, if you feed an opcode into an input selector, it switches based on the code of the thing, right? Like we found that save was 7 and mset or regset or whatever was a 1 or something. So I don't understand what the point of this is. But okay, mset and addm, whatever, fine. Input select. I don't understand, we feed... Okay, I see. So the value to output when the selector is mset, I don't know, this seems about the same as a regular input selector, but alright, I guess. So let's go grab a counter here, and go away. And we need, again, our, a reader here with an instruction decoder here. And I guess we need this. So we have mset and addm. So what is addm supposed to do? It's supposed to read 2 slots and write the value to a 3rd slot. This seems substantially easier than the basic CPU to me, if I understand things properly. Okay, so source. Okay, so in both cases, dest is the register we're writing to. So we can just put a writer over here and take this dest and send it over. I don't know how to route these stupid wires. Well, I thought I saw a thing on the dev blog about you can reroute wires if you want to make them look prettier, and so I thought I would try it, but apparently you just cut the wires in half. Who knows why? Can I why would what would be the meaning of doing this? I don't know. It seems the same as grabbing here. Okay, whatever. Okay, so that's the thing, and then what we want to write is just a different value depending on what kind of instruction. So we need I guess, 2 readers. For the source and target. So that's simple enough. Just give me 2 of these wired up to source and target. With an adder to the results. And have this be one of the inputs to the selector if it's add m. And otherwise, that, right? So wait, it's our inputs here are... Oh wait, that's not quite right, is it? So we want... The inputs to this thing are supposed to be source and target, right? I guess that is right. And the output in both cases is the destination. So we just have to take this and wire it here. Seems simple enough, right? And indeed, you can see we're going to do the first step correctly. Will we do the second correctly? It's an add m. So 60 and 75 are 3 and 2 stored into slot 50, right? Like this. Ooh, don't scroll on me. Alright, I mean, I don't know. This seems okay. It's writing stuff. Yeah, so that was super straightforward. I feel like it would be much easier to have this one before the previous puzzle, but I don't know. Great, we should be all set to build a real, complete CPU. Let me just say, while we're both still normal people and not insanely wealthy after Zero Comic goes public, it was a pleasure knowing you, Dana. When I'm sitting in my brand new mansion, I'll still remember you, promise. Who is Fred? For better or worse, much more successful at hardware testing than he is at comedy. I don't remember even, like, meeting Fred, but alright, whatever. Next puzzle, I guess. Arithmetic CPU. Is this Jeff again? Jack. I'm so sorry. I've been enormously busy setting everything up for the launch. I've been under a lot of stress. If I ever said anything rude, I really truly apologize from the bottom of my heart. All you need to do is build this final CPU, executing all instructions as I'm told you do. Build this final CPU, executing all instructions as I'm told you do? I guess is he trying to make a joke that I always follow instructions as a person? I don't know. Then give me a copy of the blueprints. I'll hand it to the investor to show them and we'll all be rich. Okay, so presumably Jack is planning to steal this from us, but this is all part of the very exciting story. Okay, so this is... It's got set R and save. But we also... So we already have a thing that does most of this, right? We just need to add support for add R to it. So let's go grab our basic CPU. Copy all of this. Maybe it belongs in the palette or something, but I don't know how often we're going to reuse that. And paste it. Okay. Now, it's a bit more spread out than it really needs to be. Right, so this handles... First of all, we can squeeze these guys together. Oh no, we can't because there's... Yeah, I can. Okay. Squeeze all this together. These we can't squeeze together so easily. But we can pull all this a bit closer. I left a lot more space than really necessary. I don't know, we'll just leave it like this. So what we need to do is add support for add R. And maybe, in fact, support... We may have to change how we support these two instructions, depending on, like... Because set R has the same... No. Yeah, so add R uses all of the arguments, which means none of them are ever empty. And we were relying on arguments being empty to decide whether to write... we were just sort of relying on that to mean we don't write stuff to memory. Now we're going to have to be more careful with where we send the instruction values, I suspect. so what do I have here? I have input selectors, op selector, yeah, which has exactly the inputs we need this time. Okay. So I think so. It outputs the single selected input. That's a little interesting. I'm not sure like what exactly, how much of this we have to change and how much we can leave the same. I feel like pretty much all the stuff over here is sort of going to have to get thrown away. Well, maybe not this. But these guys are just like wired up a little bit too simply. I ought to start like from left to right where I like break this thing apart, but I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. So let's say we just wanted to implement add r. Like, have we already done that in reg file? No, set r. Okay. Add flip. In basic CPU, we have set r and save, and that's what we've copied to here. Now they made us learn op select first before we could do that. The arithmetic CPU. And so, like, of course, this is probably going to be a useful part. And obviously, you know, quote unquote obviously, we should use it right after we decode the op. Like, that's pretty simple. But I don't know exactly what I'm doing after that. I don't know, I guess we can just sort of, like, dive in and see, right? So, like, let's take this. There you go. Great. We'll probably want maybe multiple of these. So, like, okay, in each stage, for each instruction, one possible approach would be to say, for each instruction, we must write some register. Even though save doesn't actually write a register, we could write a dummy where, like, we write the value of register 0 into register 0. Like, that would be okay, if that turns out to be a convenient way to do things. And it very well might be. Because then we could just have this, like, wire this up to, I'm not sure exactly. Have this take several inputs, a 0, yeah, kind of like have two multiplexer thingies, feeding the two inputs of this. One controlling which register we write to and one the value. And one of the inputs could be fed either by the register or by the instruction or by, like, just the constant in the set r instruction. Alright, you know what? I think it's going to be easier if I just, like, get rid of this stuff to stop distracting myself for the moment. And let's try to implement sort of just add, but, like, let's get rid of these wires as well. And I think the plan is going to be to have two of these things wired up like so. As I was describing, we always write something to a register, and what we write depends on the instruction. It's a little bit fuzzy to me, but okay, so for set r, what is it that we're going to write? Well, that's pretty easy, right? We can register number 2 is where we want to write, and the value we want to write is this. So that was easy. We did set R. Great. I don't know, like this. What about add R? Well, what we could do is have a couple of input selectors. Let's see if they go like this. Wired up to this. Like so. So now we have 2 copies of reading from the registers. And if we wish to add together some registers, then we should send what? So add takes 3 separate registers. Okay, so maybe we need a third one of these guys. I don't feel so great about that, but okay. Let's just do it speculatively for now. Maybe I don't need it. Actually, I think I probably don't. Let's delete it for now. In the case of add R, which is this one, we want to feed this guy from where we write to in an add R, which is dest. So that's here. And the value that we write is the result of an adder from here and here going to here. Now the trick is, of course, that we haven't told these guys where to read from, right? So how do they know where to read? Well, there's a bit of a question here. One thing we could do is just wire the... Well, no, we couldn't, because source... Let's see. They need to be fed source and target, right? So source is going... and we don't need to worry about multiplexing them, I think. We can just feed source and target directly in. This will be sort of wasteful. They'll read a register even if they don't need to. But let's see, can I name this? I can somehow, right? Source. And we'll name this one target so I don't forget. And we can reuse these, I think, for save. The set the memory slot specified in target, which we can read out of target here, to the one specified to the value in register source, which we have here. So we can reuse this both for save and for add R. It's just for add R, we feed these guys to an adder, and for save, we feed one of them to a reader and the other one to a writer, basically. I think that's okay. And for set R, we're not going to use these at all. Okay, that seems all right. it's hard to see where these wires are coming from. Like, yes, I can mouse over them and like that works. It's just, I kind of wish they were spread out a little bit more. I know, you know, Pleasing Fungus had a thing about a dev blog post about like how hard it was to get the wires to look at all reasonable, and I sympathize. But I kind of wish like that this one headed up to here and then went up and then to here, rather than all of them turning north as soon as possible. Try to make them, you want lines to coincide as little as possible, ideally, right? And I'm sure that that's a hard thing to do. I don't know how you would do it, but as someone looking at these wires, I constantly forget, where does this go, where does this go? But okay, so this is, what in fact is it? I don't know. It's the memory, it's the register we want to write to, anyway. And in the case of a save instruction, it's empty, and that's fine, right? We just won't save anything. We won't write to any registers. But we actually, in the case of save, how much have I even implemented here so far? Have I in fact correctly implemented add-r and set-r? That would be interesting to know. I think I might have. So let's see how that looks in the test. So let's see. We're writing a 30 to slot 3 in 2, I should say. The third slot, which is slot 2 in set-r. So that seems right. And then we're writing an 18. So that's all great. And then in add-r, we're adding 30 and 18 and putting it into slot 2. Perfect. So we have add-r and set-r. Those were fine. Now we just need save implemented. And the trick is, though, that this is only the address of the register we want to write, which in the case of save should be nothing. So, okay, well let's, I wish, I keep hitting escape to stop testing. Is there some button to stop testing? Tab. Well, alright. There's me trying to mouse pan like you would in Shenzhen IO. I keep doing this. Anyway, so let's try just implementing save in a reasonable way, which is basically we want a reader for source, the memory slot specified by 3. No, we don't need any readers. The value from register 5. So actually all we need to do is have a writer now. Is that right? So what is this again? In the case of save, it's what we want to write, what register we want to write, which is nothing. So, okay, there's sort of a problem, which is that we have exactly right into the memory slot specified by 3, which is source. So, like, we have this. This is almost finished, right? This almost implements save, except that this is always being fed by target. And this is always being fed by source, and therefore we would also execute save when we get to an add-r, which we don't want to do. So we need some way to activate this only when the instruction is actually a save, right? So I think, like, if I tested this, something interesting will happen when we get to the first save. I'm not sure what. Or actually, the first add R might? Yeah, so we wrote a 30 into slot 18, which we weren't supposed to have done at all, as a result of executing this add R, basically. So the current instruction is an add R. But it didn't write anything? Maybe there's just no value around. Wait. Current memory. Oh, I was looking at initial. Okay, so... yes. As a side effect of executing this add R, we accidentally wrote some garbage into memory, which is not what we want to do. So we just need a clever way to deactivate this if the instruction is not save. And one way we could do this would be to add another instruction op selector here that only forwards this if this thing is whatever. And I think that we kind of have to add one more piece somewhere, and where it is doesn't really matter, I think. So we'll just go ahead and add another op selector. Here, fed by this, receiving input only in the case of a save instruction and forwarding it to here. Right, like I think that that's the easy fix. It might not be the ideal fix, there's probably something that uses fewer modules, but I think that this addresses the bug. Uh-oh. We wrote something to 6? What? When did that happen? We overwrote instruction number 6. Okay. Well, that's sort of a problem. So when did that happen? Here. This instruction was the one that did it. So maybe... why did this happen? It is a save instruction. And we are being asked to do what? Wait, what's our instruction counter? It's 6. So we're executing this very last save. Save in the memory slot specified by register 3. What's in register 3 right now? This is register 3. Save into slot 89. Oh, do we have these backwards? Yes. Okay, well that's easy enough. Just put that there, and I think we should also flip these since that better represents what they're doing. Sure, I guess? Alright, whatever. Try again? Great. Oh, what a wonderful day, Dana. This is the culmination of all my dreams. The CPU, the launch, it's almost too much to believe, isn't it? Well, here we go. Smile for the cameras now, Dana. So, notably, there is... the ideal would be to use one fewer module, huh? I can't help but feel that it's this one, somehow. Like, there should be some way to use this... one of these two op selectors. So which... that's interesting, actually. These two... are they both reading from the same thing? Wait, undo. Did I click something? Yes. They are. They're both reading from here, and they're always forwarding it to here, unless save is set. But we don't actually need that cleverness, because if save is set... sorry, if it is a save, then this one won't feed any input. So what we can do is just take this 2 and wire it directly to here. and remove this, right? Now, we're always feeding this directly and saying that's the register to write, but we only give it a value if it's a register-based operation, register writing operation, I should say. So I think that that gets us down to the ideal. Yeah, okay, cool. So, puzzle select. Interesting. So we didn't finish multiply. So that we did so this board is not complete. But we got to the end of the board, which means we can do board 3 or star? 3 is a sides? High speed? I don't know. So interesting. So this is like, I don't know, whatever. We'll do this later. I think that this is probably enough for one episode. Next episode, we'll dive into one of these future boards. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.